You know, I should have made one of these a long time ago. Hello, welcome back to Shop at the channel and to this. So if you saw my previous video, go back and look at it. Stick a link in the description if you didn't. 2 videos. I built these boxes for our living history group to hold flyers. Well, I wanted to paint them. I really realized that I should finally get a Lazy Susan to do painting and spraying and shooting of the stuff onto small parts. Well, I didn't have one, didn't build one, so I borrowed this one from my wife, which is a cake spinner for spinning cakes when you're doing building cakes, making cakes, frosting cakes, whatever. But she uses it in a pottery for doing banding. So she puts the thing on there and the brush and spins, and that's cool. Well, this has to go back downstairs to where she does that. So I mentioned in my previous video, I'm going to build my own, and I bought this bearing thing for building Lazy Susans, like so. The inside spins independent of the outside, and you can tell it's lubricated. And the thing is, it comes with, and you can't see them, I'm going to bring one up to you, but there's these little plastic feet that come in the holes. Let me bring it up to the camera. Little plastic feet like this that come in the holes. We're going to take those out and get rid of them, because you're going to fasten this device to both of your pieces of wood. Now, my pieces of wood are from the big box store, an 18 and a 15-inch, 1-inch thick stool seat, small table seat, whatever. They're cheap. This will be the base, obviously, the small one. Goes like that, and this will be the spinning table. But if I have a small thing that I need, I can flip it over and use the small one. It seems kind of ridiculous to do that, but I will. So the first thing to do is find the center of this. And there is an relatively easy way to find the center of this. So let me bring the camera down and hopefully I can get the shot of me finding the center of this so that I can center this and proceed with the build. So we want to find the center. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line. Do it this way so I can see the numbers. Draw a line. Let's do a 10-inch line. To the machined edge. This has been radiused on the outside, so to the machined edge that's 10 inches long. It gets me close enough. And then I'm going to kind of randomly draw another line 10 inches over here, kind of at an angle. And while I've got this here, I'm going to mark the center. I should have done that while I had this one here. So I've got to mark the center, which is 5 inches. And then I have this big thing I got from Bridge City Tools. Someday I'll tell the story about this. But I want to bring this, I'm going to line it up on the edge of this line here, on the top of this part, because this has a radius. And that doesn't help much when you want to get into a corner. So I'm going to line this up here so the line is right there, and then right to my little center mark, like that. Oops, get it down. It's finicky. There. X there. Same here. Going to get down up against the little halfway mark, and on the line, X there. That should be the center. And to do a little test, we'll do. Oops, I banged into the camera. How about that? That's a little tad over. That's about 7 1/4. And that's 7 1/4. So we're in the center. I've already set these dividers, compass, to the outside radius of the hardware for the Lazy Susan. And then I'm going to poke that in there. I'm going to draw a circle. There's that. Now I have a place to put this. So I can drill and mount it. And I have to decide where it's going to go where. So the inside holes will be attached to the, no, excuse me, do it this way, that way. So the inside holes will be attached to the base. The outside holes will be attached to the table. I'm going to set this up on the center. And basically clamp it in place. And then you just do the mounting screws right in there. Now I need to mount the bearing thing. Now I want to use number 8 screws just for they're thicker shafts and more bite to the wood. But unfortunately, the countersinks are so poorly made that the number 8 sits proud of the surface. So I've got a little what you call it, tapering bit, and I'm going to see if I can taper these so they'll fit the number 8 screws. Okay, I'm able to get these below the surface of the disc so that they won't interfere with the top part spinning, because this is a very tight fit. It's all a very tight fit. So now I got to do all of these holes now. Okay, so I have countersunk these deeper so the heads of the screws don't interfere with the wood of the other part. So let's, now what I want to do is I want to fasten it down using the number 8 by 1 inch screws. So the outside circle here that I've drawn is the outside circle of this. Or this circle is the outside of this. And we want the little ones, the one inside holes, I want them on the base. So what I want to do is I want to clamp this in place. I wonder if this will work. That won't reach. Let me get a clamp. I want to clamp this in place. Find a clamp that'll work. Turns out I kept these jorgies for a reason. These parallel jaw, these large old style wooden clamps. They can do this, you know. But so I've got this centered and everything, and I'm going to put screws in initially. There we go. Okay, so I now have the rotating mechanism screwed onto the base. Okay, that's cool. But if you notice, these screws for the top come in from the bottom. So how do you get those, how do you get that to work? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark a hole, mark a spot, and you can do this randomly. Just mark a spot like that, and then drill a 1/2 inch hole through the base to get to where you can mount the screws for the top from the back. Hope that makes some sense. So let's take that off. Okay, let me go drill a hole, and then we'll start putting this thing together. So I've got the Lazy Susan parts screwed down to the base, and but because these rings are so close together in thickness, and I wasn't sure, I put a washer underneath each one of these 4 screws holding it onto the base. And what I've done is I've taken washers and put them on with double-sided tape onto the outer ring, so that you'll have that spacing as well. And there's the hole I drilled. And let me bring up, there we go. You see in camera, that's how it gets mounted. Just like that, you go through each one. But you do one at a time. And what you're going to do is, I drew a circle, the diameter of this, the same way I drew the circle on the base for the rotating mechanism. So I have a place to align everything to. I'm going to do one first and then spin it around, make sure everything's aligned correctly, do the opposite one, and then we'll finish up with the last two. Okay, it's like that, and it moved a little bit like I expected. Okay, so I want to bring this around to the opposite side, make sure it's still aligned correctly. No, it moved. And there we go. This is not fine furniture. It doesn't have to be perfectly aligned because it's a tool. It's a jig. Okay, now we do the other two. If we got to find them, put them in place. There we go. So now we have a Lazy Susan for doing small parts, like so. Let me get something that goes with this. So long before all these usual suspects came up with their little pointy things for doing painting, I bought these paint pyramids at a woodworking show probably in the early 90s. And there you go. So it's off the table. You don't have to worry about paint dripping down or getting painting the bottom of it or side of it here, like painting here and getting paint on here. Now you just get paint on there. So there we go. That is a Lazy Susan for painting small parts. And if you can actually flip it over and use the other side too. I don't know what for, but you can. So now I'm going to find a place to store it in my shop, and you all know that I don't have a lot of space to store stuff in here. So until next time, make great things out of wood.